My name is Jamie Brott. I'm the Planning and Economic Development Director with the NoMa Business Improvement District. We're here today in NoMa, the area north of Massachusetts Avenue in Washington, D.C., one of D.C.'s fastest growing neighborhoods, a mixed-use, transit-oriented, exciting development location anchored to the south by Union Station and just a few blocks north of the U.S. Capitol. NoMa is an amazing success story of new development that is centered around transit connectivity. We've got a daytime population of 40,000 and growing and a residential population of 1,500 that's expected to double in the next 24 months. So we've seen amazing success in terms of new buildings, new events, new neighbors, new vitality in this area so close to the U.S. Capitol that once was an industrial remnant, somewhat forgotten in the urban fabric. So we're celebrating those successes, but we're also looking ahead to the next challenge, which in NoMa's case specifically relates to public and community open space. Because of the rapid succession of development and other factors that are unique to Washington, D.C., this NoMa neighborhood does not really have any public parks. So we've convened here today with some expert planners and some local stakeholders to imagine how we can address this issue in pragmatic terms and how we can get really visionary in the long term to provide that essential community gathering space that not only serves the new residents moving in, but also links this new burgeoning neighborhood to the historic communities surrounding it.
I'm really excited about how we've gotten to this place. This is the first time that we've been able to hold a community planning workshop in conjunction with our fall leadership meetings here in DC. And it came about because the Commission is very passionate about having these workshops become much more than what they are. The community planning workshops, the broader community planning assistance team workshops are just a huge priority for us. We want to have them measure up to Great Places of America program, for instance. How can we strengthen that? And we see that happening through the chapters, through the divisions, that they're going to be able to hold workshops like this, either in conjunction with other activities or just standalones, but helping their communities. I think it's a no-brainer. A planner shouldn't even hesitate to want to participate in a community planning workshop. It's part, especially AICP members, a certified planner, it's part of our code of ethics that we give back to the community. And the more that we can do that, the more that we strengthen ourselves and we strengthen our profession.
The main goal of APA's community planning workshops is to provide a forum for planners and communities to come together to solve unique challenges that are facing the communities. It's a way for APA to bring a resource quickly, effectively, and professionally to a situation that a community has worked with for some time and has reached some point that they need to take that issue maybe over the goal or to the next level. I think one of the key parts of this kind of process is bringing planners and community leaders together. And that synergy that is created by that combination of professional planners and community leaders is a unique experience. It can't be recreated on a conference call, and it can't be written down in a report, and it has to be done fairly quickly, because I think the key to this is the speed. I think the speed is part of the strength of this process, where some might think, oh, we're doing this too fast, we don't have enough time to prepare. I think the fact that we're thrown together quickly, professional planners have to get up to speed quickly. The community accepts this tool, and we all agree that we're going to lock arms and cooperate and work together for a day or 2 days or maybe even 3 days in some projects, I think is a really unique aspect that I've never seen in other projects before. A recommendation to bring the community into this process, I believe, is to let the community know they need to prepare. They need to, if we're going to bring everyone together and work quickly in a 1, 2, 3 day format, preparation is the key. Need to have a good briefing book. We need to have the key people who are going to participate to be involved during that time period, whatever short time period it might be. I think the other thing I find extremely important is actually visiting the community, and I don't mean trips, but I mean getting out of the building, getting out into the neighborhood, walking around with the community leaders and actually seeing the situation. Used to call it a dirty shoe tour in an industry I used to work in. You got to get our shoes dirty and walk around the neighborhood or walk around the downtown with the community leaders at our sides, because you never can anticipate the questions that are going to come up. And then while we walked around, in one situation I was in, we ran into citizens on the street, and we actually talked to the citizens, and so a whole new dimension was brought into the discussions based on what we got from these informal interviews. So I think preparation and participation and throwing each party's full selves into this process for the 1 or 2 days is the key to its success.
Well, the facilitator's function is to get the best out of the team and to keep things moving in a way that is engaging for the participants, reaches the response that the overall project is supposed to come up with, answering questions that have been posed, getting people to think about experiences that they've had that allows them to suggest alternatives, approaches that the local community wouldn't have thought of themselves. But more than anything, it's the keep things flowing, keep things working between the participants in a way that is not creating friction, because sometimes personalities will conflict, is even in that everybody gets a reasonable opportunity to speak, that no one is dropped out and doesn't get a chance to speak because they are intimidated by all the other good ideas, etc. But flow is important, pace is important, keeping an eye on the energy level of the participants is all part of the role that the facilitator takes. Some advice, I guess, about making sure that the conflicts are minimized and the production is to everybody's advantage. It involves, in some cases, restating what you hear in a way that finds sort of common grounds, and if two conflicting views, first and foremost, we think that there really aren't any right and wrong answers. And if there are no wrong answers, there's nothing wrong with there being two answers. Often the community really needs to hear more than one version. And in the end, when the groups get together, no doubt that there will be several. And so if individuals don't agree, we agree not to agree. We agree that there are more than one way of doing things. We often use parking lots, which are those little sheets of paper on the side where you can write down ideas or issues that can't be immediately resolved but can be potentially addressed later in the process. We like to see everybody get a chance to speak to what that one person who is the sort of outlier, and encourage them to consider how to bring that back into the fold of the rest of the ideas. So we don't like to isolate people. We don't like to make sure see them in conflict, but we often like everyone to get a chance to sort of work with the idea that let's say, outlier person has brought up. The fact is that planners do care about these programs. Some of them haven't had the opportunity yet to be directly involved in this. Every planner who walks away from this feels better than they walked into this. Every participant sees the benefit of the kind of interaction that these charrettes, workshops, task force kind of activities bring out the best of planners. There's a real joy at the end of each one of these workshops, at the end of each of these sessions during the day where you've resolved the issues. The community has an immediate reaction that says, we didn't think about that. We didn't expect that to be the result, and that's just great. We have both benefited, both the planners and the participants who have been engaged from the community. Planners should care about this because it's really an opportunity to meet with others of their profession to hear perspectives that they wouldn't have otherwise heard. Many times we see the participants in these to be individual planners who don't have a cadre of other professionals that they regularly get a chance to feed off of. And this is just a thrilling opportunity to hear from people around the country that you're not otherwise going to get in contact with, to hear different perspectives, different approaches, different answers that you wouldn't have thought of yourself. It brings the best out of you as a professional.
Well, I think the role of the planner in these workshops is to be a resource, is to be somebody, is to listen to what the community participants are saying, and to be able to offer suggestions and be helpful. It's also a way to communicate about what the value of planning is and what does planning bring to their community, kind of help connect on a more personal level with community members. As for skills, like I said, listening is critical. Some of the issues we've had in the past is perhaps planners came and thought they should have all the answers. Well, you never can have all the answers, but listening, being able to give a thoughtful suggestion, or help draw out even more things from the community, that's what we do on a day-to-day basis, but this is on a more friendly level. There's no expectation of having the official planner response. This is a wonderful way to have an exchange with community members and come up with some creative problem solving and some suggestions to help create a better community for them. Well, I think to set yourself up for a successful workshop like this, one, being well prepared, having a clearly defined project is going to be helpful, so there's not scrambling and trying to figure out what are we really doing here, But I think a couple of things, and it may sound a little hokey, but setting up things where there's sort of informal time between community members and planners. For example, we went on the walking tour today, and as a walking tour, you're kind of intermingled with folks, other planners. We were here from around the country, but also from the neighborhood and business leaders. And it wasn't a formal facilitated exchange. You dodged traffic together. You observed a community picnic or a community event, or asked questions about, well, who built this? And that starts to build some relationships and some commonality. Other types of things that just bring that kind of informal piece together, I think, is very helpful, as well as having a very good idea of what the outcomes are going to be, what that goal that the whole group is trying to get towards by the end of the day. This is a chance where you get to, without a lot of strings, really just relate with a community. You can come here as a little freer. You don't have to think of the political consequences, or it might be the politically correct thing, or be aware, but you can just give your best professional answer or your best professional ideas, and it's a gift. You are giving your gift of your time, you are giving your professional opinion, your experience, and you are working with the community and handing that over. And I think that brings a whole different element out. The other piece of it, it's not just about what you're giving, it's what you're getting. In this setting today, I've been a planner for 27 years. I heard a whole slew of ideas I hadn't heard before, a whole different group of projects that came up that sounded interesting that I want to go find out about. It just keeps building your planner's toolbox, but also helping you grow, understand, and broaden your understanding of this profession and what we can achieve.
My name is Carlos Bonner. I am a DC resident. I live in a community which is about 2 miles north of here. I am also work for a major commercial development company, Skanska, and we are planning to develop a site right at First and M in the NoMa submarket. And so part of my reasonings for being here is a local resident of DC and curious as to what's going to happen here, but also as a potential business owner, representing my firm that is a business owner here. How do we respond to the community's needs? We are taking the step to not be reactive but proactive, and part of our proactive goals is to understand what the community needs are and what they want, and how we can supplant ourselves here and be seen as one of the people who listened. My initial reactions were that this was a job well done. I applaud all the planners behind this, the DC government, the NoMa bid, the development community, the residents, all the brainchilds behind this, because I thought it really brought everyone together who directly or indirectly are stakeholders. We found people that lived in the neighborhood and people who lived out of the neighborhood, people who are currently doing business in the neighborhood and people who want to do business in the neighborhood, and just got their thoughts and ideas out onto the table. And there was a collaboration, very respectful, but also very understanding. So I think it's a great way for the city and this area to progress. So I applaud everyone who was behind this. You know, all in all, this is a great way for many people to get their voices out. I think on a day like today, this is Saturday, you know, you first like thinking, wow, I'm gonna spend all day Saturday, but when you realize the atmosphere that it brings a casual atmosphere. It's not, you know, people who volunteer their time, and they're gonna really participate. So I think this was a great platform, great location. The walking tour was great, so people can really get a good context. And what I really liked, another key feature, I'm sorry I didn't say this before, was the outside viewpoint. We have people who are from other cities, and to hear some of the things that they're doing, their perception, and the questions that they ask actually made me think a little further on the planning that we're doing for our current project. So I think this is definitely one way people should definitely interact together.
I mean, I've been here for 5 or 6 years, and so local resident nearby, I'm just, it was exciting that a group of people that are so well versed in development would want to come here and focus on our area. I mean, it's just, you know, just feel really lucky to have that opportunity, and we're excited about what can happen and what can happen to our area, what can be built upon it, and it's been an unbelievable experience. So it's great.
It's sort of an honor to have these professionals come in and really take the time out of their day, out of their lives, to fly in from all over the place just to focus on our neighborhood and kind of get their perspective of maybe the way forward, to have that technical expertise. So we're at least I'm very, very appreciative of. I think it was a very successful event as well.
Yeah.
What was particularly exciting for me was hearing all the ideas they came up with, and you know, it was very quick. They only had like a couple of hours. They had a briefing book, fine, but you know, they'd never been to this neighborhood, and they started throwing out ideas that, you know, we've also been thinking about for so long, and they were similar and familiar to us. So it's great to hear that, you know, these experienced planners are, you know, they have the same values that we have, so hopefully they'll be, you know, applied.
Yeah, I think what worked well was to have the residents and the planners, because it gave this great, you know, you had the outside fresh eyes perspective with the technical expertise, and then you had, you know, the residents who could give sort of the inside scoop on, you know, what we're looking for, and they could kind of guide us, and we could at the same time kind of guide them.